Hello paper crafters, I'm Sunny Sky and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today we're going to create the Impossible card using the Colorful Seasons stamp set. This is the one we're doing, and I also created another one here where there's a little cutout rather than the rectangular flap. So I just wanted to show you those using this stamp set and also the coordinating dies, but you could use a stamp set where you're stamping everything instead of doing stuff with the dies as well. All the measurements for today's card. Now these two sheets here, this is the way they start out, 2.5 by 4, and then you're going to cut them. They start out at 2.5 by 4, then you're going to cut this width so it's 1 7/8, and then the difference, whatever is left, you're just going to cut a 3/4 inch strip of that. So this sheet would fit right there, and then there's part of it that you won't use. So I just wanted to show you both of those things. You could cut an L-shaped piece of paper, but it's simpler just to cut squares. Alright, so let's take our full card, which in this case is just a flat sheet of cardstock. It's not folded, and I've already scored it down the center. So it is a 5.5 inch, or I'm sorry, it's 4 1/4 this way, so I've scored it at 2 1/8 down the center. Now we're going to create our cuts. And you really could make your cuts anywhere, but to make it simple and to match with the other pieces I've chosen, I'm going to cut 1 inch from each end on this side, just up to the center. And I can see where that center score is. So I'm going to flip it over, and I'm using this 1 inch on this side just because I like to use this guide. And when you're just doing, if you're doing like this, you don't have as much room to make sure it's straight. So I'm just using, when I'm doing a short measurement, I'm using it on the opposite side. Okay, so that's 2 cuts, 1 inch from each end on one side. Then flip it over, and you're going to cut just to the center in half. So it's 5.5, which means you're going to cut at 2.75 inches, 2 3/4 of an inch, just to the center score line. So we have 3 cuts, and we have it scored in the center. Now this is where the magic happens, the impossible card of this card. You're simply going to flip one side over, and you're bending with this score line here, but not that. Keep that straight. We just scored that to make it similar. Okay, just to make it so we have the score line all the way across. So that's what makes it the impossible card. It's one sheet of cardstock. Then when you turn 1/2 of it, that's what creates the impossible. And then we're just going to add, these are stabilizers, these little tabs that go across in the front and the back, just simply to stabilize the construction of the card and make sure that it is rectangular. Now it's good to go ahead and crease this fold, and at this point you can really go whichever way you want with that. If we had flipped this one forward instead of the other side forward, it would kind of give us the opposite end being forward. Okay, so that is the magic of the card. Alright, the next thing to do is to create our layers on top of this card. And we had these 2 sheets of cardstock, which were 2.5 by 4, because they're going to fit on these 2 sides. So we're going to cut this cardstock off, put this up where you can see it, at 2 or 1 7/8. We are dealing with some 1/8 inches here on this system. Okay, and then the longer piece is going to be a 3/4 inch wide piece, because our cardstock is 1 inch wide, so our layer needs to be 3/4 inch. Okay, so then those will fit right there. This part here, you're just going to discard that or use it for another embellishment. All right, then I do want to make sure that I'm cutting my cards with the same direction. And on the next one, I'm going to do the opposite side, is going to be my larger square. And then lining that up, and then the outside is going to be that 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to turn it around this way so I can get the 3/4 of an inch on this side, just so I can get better stabilization on those items. And I turned it around, so I'm going to flip it back. Now, one of the nice things about using patterned paper rather than solid colored cardstock is when you're putting these two pieces together and you want them to line up and really look like one, this patterned paper makes it, you don't see where we cut it so easily as you would if it was just a simple single color of cardstock. Now I'm going to go ahead and take these crossbars here and stabilize this. And I just want to put adhesive on the ends. And so I'm going to use my liquid adhesive. That gives me a little time to get those together. Okay, now we need to do our stamping. And I've got the new pineapple punch here. And I'm going to stamp the flowers in pineapple punch. Now the flowers in this stamp set, you'll see that on the dies, maybe I need to flip it over this way, there is a little triangle on each piece of the photopolymer. And I've put them here so that they will be facing the same direction. And that helps me when I go to do the interior portion of the flower. So I'm putting them with the triangle facing that way. And when I come back and do the centers, ooh, I did not ink that one up very good. Let me just press a little bit longer. There we go, much better. All right, so when I come back to do the centers of my flowers, I'm going to remember that the triangle was up at this end of the cardstock. So I want my centers to be up at that end too. Now, you see the little triangle there with the center? That's the center of the larger flower, and then the two smaller flowers have this center that works better for them. And we're going to use soft suede here. So pineapple punch and soft suede. So I'm going to turn so that that little triangle of the extra photopolymer on that stamp is facing the same direction as that original stamp there. And again with this one, I'm going to make sure my triangle is facing the same way. And you can see where if you turn these upside down on these flatter flowers, it would definitely look a little off. And then these flowers we will punch out with our die cut. All right, now my little bar across the back of the card, I'm going to stamp just these centers of the flowers just to give it some interest. It's the back of the card, so you're not going to see it as much, but I wanted to put something there. And then we have a greeting in the stamp set, thinking of you, and that will fit nicely on the front panel. All right, and so there's our stamping. All right, we've got everything cut out on the Big Shot. I just adhered my little stamped layers there, and I'm going to put a little liquid glue on this branch, just on some of the main intersections of it, or the slightly larger pieces. It does stick off of the square just a little bit, so you don't want to put glue directly on the ends. And then the other thing is we've got our flowers here, and I've just put mini glue dots on them, and this also will help the branch stay in position. And we'll just scatter them across the branch as you like, and decorate up that card. I think I'll put another one down here as well. So that is the Impossible card. So there's the one I just created. Here's the one I did for you before, and that had a little lighter blue than I did on this one. Not sure which version I like better. And then again, here is that one that we did with the shaped thing that I had done ahead of time. So if you go to Split Coast Stampers, she has a really great tutorial for this card showing you a shaped, she has a big giraffe shaped die cut that she uses for that center, which is pretty neat. So that is the Impossible card for today. So thank you guys for joining me. This was really fun. I hope that you enjoyed it and that I made it easy for you to figure out exactly how to do it yourself. So make sure you like the video, shop, subscribe, share, and go have some fun crafting today.